that a decade later would become a $200 billion movement. To this day, it's still not sure who Satoshi Nakamoto is, whether it's a single person or multiple people or things. But it doesn't matter. What matters more is this. This chart shows how the top 4 mining pools, all of which are based in China, control between 60 to 80% of Bitcoin's mining power. This is very dangerous because miners have a crucial role in Bitcoin's money supply and securing Bitcoin transactions. Bitcoin mining is becoming centralized, and it's due to a major design flaw in Bitcoin's core protocol that still remains unfixed. If nothing changes, it might be that Bitcoin will not survive its next decade. In 2008, the global financial system collapsed as all trusted authorities failed to prevent an economic meltdown that cost millions of people their homes, jobs, and life savings. The trusted authorities were big banks that received trillions of taxpayers' dollars in bailouts, who then used the money to pay their executives fed bonuses and lobby against regulation. So Satoshi offered a solution: get rid of all trusted third parties. Bitcoin was supposed to be a decentralized financial system that would give people freedom to transfer their funds directly among one another without any central authority in between. It's a peer-to-peer currency that is controlled by the people. Bank accounts were replaced by wallets that are free to create and with no restrictions on their use. Centralized transaction system was replaced with a distributed blockchain that stores all transactions publicly, and anybody can download a full copy to run their node. Money creation and security was transferred from central banks to miners. Anyone with a computer can contribute with its computational power to help secure the network, create new coins, and earn money for doing so. Decisions are made not by a central authority behind closed doors, but through a majority consensus and open discourse. Bitcoin works unlike any other bank or financial system. There are no background checks, no identity verifications, and there is no one to tell you what you can and can't do with your Bitcoins. It's a completely permissionless system. But because decisions are based on the network's consensus, Bitcoin only works as long as the network's power is distributed enough so that no single entity can act as a majority. Today, much of Bitcoin mining power is concentrated in China, which when taken as a single entity could easily exercise unilateral control over the network. This could have catastrophic consequences for the whole cryptocurrency. The root of the problem is that the majority consensus isn't the majority of the people, but the majority of the computational power on the network, which means fewer people can control more mining power. When you send somebody your Bitcoins, before your transaction is added to the network, it has to pass what is called the proof of work. Bitcoin takes your transaction and puts it in a block. This block now serves as a set of data that the algorithm encrypts with a hash to generate a unique number of a fixed length. Before a block can be added to the blockchain, Bitcoin miners have to guess this unique hash. When somebody guesses the correct hash, they announce it to the network, and the block with your transaction is added to the blockchain, and that's called proof of work. Bitcoin miners use this process to determine their consensus. The longest chain of blocks is the one with the most computational power behind it, so it is accepted as the single history of transactions. Now you can ask, well, what's the point of that? In the absence of a central authority controlling and securing transactions, Bitcoin has to somehow make it too difficult and costly for anyone trying to go back and double spend their Bitcoins or retrospectively tamper with past transactions. Because each block is uniquely hashed, if they made the slightest change in a single transaction, it would generate a new hash for the block, and they would have to redo the proof of work for that block. And because hash values of subsequent blocks are dependent on the hash values of the previous ones, they'd have to redo proof of work for the subsequent blocks too. It's a clever design. Bitcoin hashes are difficult to guess, and finding them requires a lot of computational power. Your chances of finding the correct hash on Bitcoin is currently less than 1 in 13 trillion. So it's practically a lottery. Then why would anybody want to waste their precious resources for Bitcoin mining? You probably know the answer. Mining is Bitcoin's answer to centralized money supply. There is no mint or central bank printing money. Bitcoin automatically creates new coins as a reward for miners who find correct hashes. This incentivizes miners to bring in more and more computational power to the network to increase their chances of winning the mining lottery. But every 2 weeks, Bitcoin is designed to adjust the difficulty level of their hash target, so that it always takes roughly 10 minutes for miners to find a new hash. This is useful for consistency. You can rely on the network that it will always take 10 minutes to receive the first confirmation of your transaction, 60 minutes to receive 6 confirmations, and so on. You know where this is going. As miners increase the network's computational power and Bitcoin increases the difficulty level, opening new mining operations requires more and more initial investment into better hardware and to cover electricity costs. Profit margins for newcomers are tiny. Smaller miners are gradually excluded from the game, and incumbent miners accumulate greater and greater share of the network's power. And that's how Bitcoin is becoming re-centralized. Why is centralization a problem? If somebody with bad intentions controls over 50% of the mining power, they control the consensus. They can unilaterally decide which transactions go through and which don't, or they can even double spend their bitcoins. This is known as a 51% attack. In 2014, the Bitcoin community was in full panic mode, as for several hours, a single mining pool, Gashio, controlled over 50% of Bitcoin's total hash rate. Gashio miners began leaving the pool to reduce their network share, and within a day, their power dropped by 4 percentage points. Lucky for Bitcoin, Gashio didn't do any damage. The pool temporarily stopped receiving new registrations, and the company allowed miners to easily switch to different pools. But not everyone is so fearful of the 51% attack. It's possible in theory, but there is little, if any, practical benefit. Any attempt to double spend would require redoing all of the hash work, not just for the block the transaction was in, but also for all the subsequent blocks on the blockchain. They cannot just go back a number of blocks, change some transactions, and go back on top of the blockchain as if nothing happened. Double spending would be self-crippling, because the rest of the miners would continue adding up to the latest blocks on the longest chain, but double spending miners would fall behind by the number of blocks they'd need to redo. But even if they succeeded, they wouldn't be able to evade detection, since all transactions on the ledger are public and could be easily connected to real-life identities. Any such attempt of economic fraud on Bitcoin would very likely lead to an immediate meltdown of the whole currency. And there is not much else someone could do to attack the network. Even if a single mining pool controlled 100% of the hash rate, they wouldn't be able to steal other people's bitcoins, override the Bitcoin protocol, or create new coins at a faster rate than the Bitcoin algorithm allows. But what if someone doesn't care about profit and just wants to watch Bitcoin burn?
Now we're talking.
Now that's a real problem. Because the majority of the hash rate is concentrated in China, if the Chinese government took control of all of their mining pools, they could try to destroy Bitcoin by halting the network or double spending left and right, not for fraudulent gains, but to devalue the currency. And China has a great experience with devaluing a currency. China is not going away anytime soon, as they also dominate Bitcoin trading. What's worrying is that Bitcoin isn't big in China for its potential for a libertarian revolution. China is interested in its blockchain technology that has wide arrays of potential implementation, especially in science, logistics, and urban development. In China, there is little ideological motive to secure the existence of Bitcoin as an ultimate tool of economic liberation. Re-centralization is a problem that Bitcoin might not be able to solve on its own. Unless there is a major innovation in technology and electricity production that significantly reduces the costs and upfront investment in Bitcoin mining, the cryptocurrency won't be able to redistribute its hash rate. Individual mining is not an option because of the lottery nature of Bitcoin mining. Miners join mining pools to increase their chance of earning Bitcoins, which the pools then redistribute among participating miners according to their individual hash rate. The problem is that when individual miners join mining pools, they are surrendering their control over construction of blocks and decision on which transactions go in and which don't. Proposed solutions are to strip pools of their control and give it to individual miners. But any such implementation would require that enough miners switch to new pools that support the change of rules, or that existing pools implement them at their own will. The fears of a 51% attack shouldn't be dismissed just because they can hardly be economically feasible. The fact that at any given moment, China could control up to 80% of Bitcoin mining should be a #1 concern for anyone who wants Bitcoin to go mainstream. The movement behind Bitcoin will not work if at any point an authoritarian government can clamp it down. Centralized financial systems can't be trusted, and principles behind Bitcoin are the last beacon of a decentralized internet.